Okay, so I came across this interesting article yesterday, and it was about a Spanish agency that has apparently become so sick of models and influencers that they created their own online, AI. I don't know if they were actually so sick of models and influencers, but that was the headline. And apparently, this AI model is raking in $11,000 a month. So she's doing pretty well. She's doing better than most humans, I would say. Um and it's quite an interesting, grabbing kind of headline because it challenges a bit of what our future may become with AI sort of replacing human beings and replacing places that we may have not even thought they would. So it's interesting. So, for example, during the actor strike, they really fought hard to maintain their likeness, their AI rights, and essentially, and their likeness so that their image cannot just be used by AI. But I'm looking at this model, and she looks like a real human. I would not have been able to tell because they've really invested a lot in creating this one AI model. And the background of the image that I saw looks actually quite authentic. So if you had shown me this particular image and you didn't tell me it was AI generated, I wouldn't have known. And we also have, I don't think they allow them on OnlyFans yet. But there's also a lot of AI generated models, influencers, also in the adult realm. And unfortunately, well, maybe unfortunately in some areas, but certainly very unfortunate to the people that are about to replace. This is kind of where we're heading, where these synthetic images essentially are replacing real people. And I think when you're looking at it in the context of a model, right, it's not somebody that just you probably don't know very much about unless they become a supermodel and they're just modeling clothes and bags and things like that. You probably, as a consumer, won't really know or care about the difference. Obviously, the models who are being replaced will, but you have the opportunity to sort of manipulate the image, make them pose in however you want. And models had sometimes worked in like very harsh weather conditions and atmospheres. And, AI sort of resolves that. So you can create images in places you probably would have never been able to otherwise, or rather with backdrops, you can create generated backdrops. So there's a lot of creative opportunities there. But what does concern me is the loss of the human element. So maybe for models, does it really matter? I'm not entirely convinced. But when we're talking about, generated influencers that replace people's girlfriends, for example, or become sort of people have these parasocial relationships with entities that just don't exist. I do find that there's something rather disturbing about it, and I am concerned, particularly as we've seen in certain countries, it's much more normalized to not have girlfriends, not have any dating relationships, to be sort of a fan of an anime character and that being sort of your girlfriend. So in some cultures, it's much more accepted than it is in North American culture, but that could shift, right? And in particular, we're seeing there's a population collapse in some places. There's people are just not dating the same, they're not getting married, they're not reproducing, and sometimes they're not leaving their homes, right? A lot of times, and I think some of that is, in the aftermath of the pandemic. And so it's very convenient to then have these parasocial relationships with these AI generated women and potentially men, and not and have that sort of replace human relationships, which are messy and break your heart. I certainly know all about that. um but it's difficult, and you have to go out there, you have to go on a limb, and here you're sort of getting everything you want in this perfectly wrapped package, and you don't have to risk anything. You don't have to, and you won't get hurt, and it's always going to be there for you. And it's going to get better and better at communicating with you. And I do think that that's a disturbing development for humans ultimately. It just depends, though, on how we're going to use it. So, um, I wouldn't mind designing my own AI model who can then go out and earn $11,000 a month for me so I don't have to work. That would be great. But I do feel for the people who are going to be replaced, and the lack, we already are at such a low with human connection, so much loneliness out in the world. I think people are very much craving it and they're missing it. And they're also not putting themselves out there to receive it because of the risk, because involves leaving their homes. It involves finding ways to meet people, which is very difficult these days because we don't have a lot of communities left. So that problem is just going to get worse potentially. So we need to be thinking about that, and we need to be figuring out how to focus on our humanity and bring back our humanity, and grow communities and build relationships, whether romantic or just friendly, and not allow these AI entities to sort of replace that as a band-aid solution, because that's ultimately all it is. But doesn't mean they're here. That's the reality of it. And doesn't mean we can't use them. And there are creative ways that we can take advantage of this technology. But there is something also a little bit disturbing about it. I'm not going to lie. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. So let me know what you think, how you feel about it, seeing an AI model. Does it matter? Does it not matter? And how do you perceive this technology in the future in terms of areas where it might replace real humans, in the way that we interface with them? Do you feel like that's a problem, or do you feel that maybe I'm, overreacting a little bit? Just let me know your thoughts.